But what we're going to do next is I'm going to bring up Michael Mertes, Roy Witherow, and Teresa Nortillo to have a good conversation about, about collaborating, because that is what this is all about. So right before we go right into that, let me ask anybody if they have any questions about this whole program so far.
We are so grateful for the fact that we are having a representative from the U.S. Department of Commerce representing Select USA here today. Did he arrive? Oh, great.
Right.
And so I am very much looking forward to hearing what you have to say, because I don't know that we've ever had the ability to directly ask you questions about what Select USA is all about. So I'm very much, so stay at, nobody leave until this guy's speaking. I'm looking forward to that.
And we also have Hovan from the trade, what's your official title? I always just know you're as U.S. Commercial Services. So I believe after this, we're going to go to a break after this next panel. So definitely talk with them a little bit. So I'm going to get Teresa, Roy, and Mike to come on up. And our topic, I'm going to start off with Teresa talking about drive times in the region, and then we'll go up and down that way.
So I think, let me just give you an introduction of the work that I do. I'm an economic development analyst, so I do a lot on the data side when it comes to labor force, occupational information, workforce information. So a lot of that data that you use to fill out the RFI. So I help communities kind of get a hold of what that data means and what it looks like in their communities. I think what we're trying to communicate here at Select Chicago is that we are a region. We are not individual communities. And so FDI or any company looking at this area does not distinguish between Elk Grove and Rosemont or whatever. They don't see those boundaries. And so when we present Select Chicago, it's on a regional footprint. And that footprint goes out about 200 miles. So we pull in, for example, I'm working right now, we're going to pull in all that data. What does the workforce look like in the Select Chicago region? What does the occupational clusters look like? And how do we then leverage those occupational clusters, and how do we leverage those supply chain synergies between, say, a manufacturing of pharmaceutical and the raw product? Where's that raw product coming from? Can we look at that company and maybe bring them in if it's a foreign direct investment company? And so looking at it from an analytical standpoint, that's really what I do. And so just on terms of what we have in the Chicagoland region, on a 100-mile radius, we have about 13 million in the population within 100 miles. We have about 6,000 to 7,000 in the labor force. And so those are numbers that you can then use to market this region. So when you're marketing to foreign direct investment companies, you're not just going to market, your community. You're going to market this region, and we can help you with that. And so some of the occupational clusters, a lot is in the healthcare industry, a lot we saw in the pharmaceuticals, and those synergies translate to the manufacturing industry, of course. And so when we look at all of that, we can pull that data, and you can then put that through on your RFI or what have you. Trying to think if there's something else. Well, I'm going to move on to let Roy talk until I can pull up some more data. Does anybody have any questions about how that works and how we can then be a resource? So if you're filling out RFI, Intersect, or anything from a foreign direct investment company looking to come in, and you want to market the region, we have that information on a regional level. So just know that that's available to you through the Select Chicago.
Yeah.
Thank you, Teresa. Good morning, everyone. I just want to talk a little bit about the importance of the collaborative efforts that I think is such an integral part of the Select Chicago communities that you see some of us here today. And just a brief why that such a collaborative effort is important to a village like Lake Zurich, which I think we're pretty indicative of the general communities here, or in the metro area. We're a population of about 20,600, and about 20% of our land mass is a pretty world-class industrial park. And 2 of our top 10 employers are nationally owned conglomerates from France and from Japan. And they employ nearly 40% of our workforce. We know that's a great story, and it's really important to get that out there. But, we're a lot like other municipalities. We don't have $100,000, $200,000 to market that type of situation in our demographics in general. But I think working with the SelectChicago communities as a whole, we have the opportunity to work in partnership with those communities and pool our resources together to tell the Chicago Metro story. And it may not be something, if an opportunity came available itself this time, it wasn't a good fit with Lake Zurich, it might be a good fit with Arlington Heights, and we would be more than happy to collaborate with Arlington Heights on that. So I think there's an economy of scale there in that kind of a collaborative relationship. And I'd like to talk just a little bit how this could tie into the state of Illinois. In the last decade or so, most of the states in the union, especially the governors, they've been devoting considerably more time to bring their influence and promote their state in the trade councils abroad. Governor Rauner was frequently traveling around the world to try to bring businesses to Illinois. I suspect Governor Pritzker will probably be doing the same thing. They've shifted their focus from education and pension reform more into bringing foreign direct investment into their states. I think that is why the timing is right for local governments to kind of piggyback into that dynamic. And that's why I think SelectChicago, through its collaborative efforts, is a prime vehicle to achieve this. I think in terms of, for example, the state has had a successful endeavor to bring a large corporation into the state of Illinois, say, for example, Japan, and it were to locate, in DuPage County. The rest of us have the advantage of piggybacking off of that, and Japanese companies will now be aware that there is some synergy going on in DuPage County and maybe Lake, and being part of the SelectChicago consortium of that, I think that benefits all, and perhaps it might not avail itself this time around, but 3 to 5 years or down the road, if we are in the SelectChicago community, they may be interested in your community as well. What else do I want to talk about? A little, just a personal experience with the SelectChicago, how that's benefited Lake Zurich. We were at a steering committee meeting last May, and through Michael and Shai and Karen, we were told that there was a Chinese investor that was looking to develop a boutique project on a large body of water. Well, on the steering committee, correct me if I'm wrong, the only member on the steering committee that has a semi-large body of water is Lake Zurich, because it's Lake Zurich. And we, the next month, the Chinese nationals came out and spent a good chunk of the morning walking around the lake, touring the various opportunities on the lake, to perhaps bring a hotel or motel type of boutique development there. And I got a lot of support from Leslie and Michael and Josh, my fellow colleagues on that, if there's anything that we can do to bring our resources to help that project happen in Lake Zurich, let us know. And likewise, if we were to get an inquiry from, I don't know, say a medical manufacturer who was looking for 20 wet labs to manufacture some kind of pharmaceutical, and they needed it in 6 months. Lake Zurich doesn't have that, but Skokie does. And I think through the development working with SelectChicago, the staff and my colleagues, I'd be more than happy to work with that to bring that to fruition in Skokie. Likewise, if some manufacturer company wanted to come in and say, we need 15 acres on a rail system, our industrial park's pretty much tapped out, we don't have that, but I know Elkgrove Village does, and I would be working with Josh to make that happen. And another, I think, something that is really a benefit, and Leslie touched a little bit on this, is the established relationships that each of us have here with foreign consulates and with ITAC. We attended a reception last fall, and I bet there were probably 40 consulates there who have spent the evening talking to people, and I think I came away with 10 conversations and 10 business cards from Sweden, the Czech Republic, and I think Jordan or an area like that. And it's through those type of relationships, and maybe Leslie introducing me to someone she knows from Pakistan or someone I might know from Ireland, we all start to share on that. So I think that's a benefit to working in collaboration with each other. So that's kind of my story in collaboration, and just 3 takeaways. I think the importance of this is working with your fellow colleagues and their relationships and building and growing each other's relationships together. Networking at the international level, and quite honestly, the economies of scale. If you don't have $200,000 to put together a marketing program, you can work with us in SelectChicago, endeavor, and get your message out there as a region. So I'll stop talking.
Thank you, Roy. It's great to see so many of my counterparts from other communities here. And let's face it, at the end of the day, in one way or another, we are in competition with each other. Our community's public works departments aren't fighting with each other over who gets to plow Main Street today. You know, our mandate from our mayors and from our councils is to land the big fish over our competition. And it's so important to collaborate because let's not kid ourselves. The perception has been out there for years now that Chicago and Illinois is a bad place to do business. And we need to come together for each other's residual benefits to work to reverse that perception and show people if we're such a bad place to invest, why are all these foreign corporations and foreign nations looking to the Chicago area as the place where they want to establish themselves in the American market. And so I think we need to take advantage of that together and realize that we're in it together and we're actually competing with the East Coast and the West Coast and the Southern United States and trying to make Chicago a great place so that all of us end up getting that residual benefit from that. Think of SelectChicago as a prime component of your economic development toolbox, okay? Both in terms of business attraction, getting a new development, or getting a new business in your community, but also business retention. This is a channel for perhaps your manufacturing community that's looking to grow and needs some kind of alternative source of financing and perhaps has a way to collaborate or get investment from another foreign country or foreign company. So this works both ways in terms of the 2 key aspects of our jobs, the business retention and the business attraction aspects. Okay, so I think the other thing that I really wanted to highlight in terms of the benefits, and we talked about the guidebook and an opportunity for you to get your key sites out there to these foreign investors and to use SelectChicago as your channel at, for example, the national convention. And I think, is it in May?
June.
It's in June, okay. So another chance to get your community's name or your community's properties out there. But I think another thing is, this is an extremely affordable way to add a component to your economic development toolbox. And I think Mike will probably kind of go into that, I'm guessing, towards the end of the program and stuff. But to be involved with SelectChicago is exponentially cheaper than a half-page ad in a trade publication. And this gets out to a much different and greater source of potential investment than you would get from that advertisement. So I think that's why it's worth it. And definitely appreciate all of you coming out and taking advantage of, one, the educational opportunity that SelectChicago offers, but also the investment opportunity that you could potentially get from us. And the last thing I think I want to say is, again, keep in mind, and we all know this from however long we've been doing the economic development thing, is it is a marathon and not a sprint. We need to develop relationships over time. And I think what's great is, despite the fact that we are all in competition with each other, there's a wonderful rapport I've experienced in the past 10 years of all of us who do what we do and sharing ideas and experiences. And I think this is a great way to bring us all together and continue to share experiences and spread a wealth of positive information about the area that we represent, the Chicago region.
Great. I want to just take a second to talk about the deal book a little bit more because of, can everybody hear me well? It goes back with the microphone. During the break, we're going to give you these placards that give you access to the online component of the deal book. The reason why the deal book is so important is as we've been talking with different investors coming to the Select USA booth, it's all about where are the deals, where are the opportunities. One of the unique things that we do with Select Chicago, where we're in DC, is talk about the opportunities because a lot of them are focused on the state level. I mean, I think Idaho had a delegation of 15, 20 people, the governor, everybody else, but they're talking about the BMW size sites. As we're talking with all the different trade consulates local, they're all looking at small to medium sites. BMW, they're going to go to the state. They're going to go to the Intersect Illinois. Dropping down behind that one, we were talking with the Kingdom of the Netherlands last week. It's all small to medium businesses. These are all the things that everybody on this panel, everybody in this room, this is your bread and butter. This is where they're looking for an opportunity to do that. And so when we're looking at this deal book, it's really, again, focusing on those sites that help move the needle. And what's been a real pleasure over the last 2 years is working with this team that's here, everybody in our steering committee. And this ties back in Teresa's data component and the different assets each different town has. And we're all working on a giver's gain philosophy. It's growing the region. And so, I want to be conscious of a little bit more time, but I didn't know, Teresa, did you want to talk a little bit about, say, the drive time, quality of labor, why Chicago works is the labor component.
Yeah, I mean, we have one of the strongest labor markets in the entire country. We have a very diverse labor market when it comes to manufacturing and looking at the key skill sets that that companies are looking for. We have a very strong workforce training pipeline, which I'm sure those of you who are in ED work with your local community colleges and some of the four-year universities on that workforce training pipeline. Part of the problem that we have is really just communicating the assets that we have, right? So a lot of times we know what we have, it's just getting that word out. And so from Select Chicago, we can pull all of that data together and build on a collaborative effort to market this region. But the companies that are coming here for a couple of reasons, but one of the main reasons is the workforce and how we can tap into that in terms of marketing it, promoting it, and exposing really the skill sets that are in demand right now. And we have a variety of that, very strong.
Great. So Roy, anything left? Finishing up, we're going to go to break after this, so this is good.
This is the best part of the program?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
All right, does anybody have any questions for our panel? Oh, come on, somebody's got to have some question. Let's see, what is the best thing about working with us for the last 2 years now? Real simple. You've talked about it before, but I enjoy the camaraderie. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rich.
No, I mean, it's just learning to, by my training, I'm not an economic development specialist, I'm a generalist, but tapping on the expertise of the people that do this day in, day out, and the camaraderie and the teamwork and the collegiality, and then the friendships that also start, and just the support of calling someone up and bouncing someone off, this idea or that idea. That's I look forward to that.
Just really quick, one of the things I've learned in the economic development realm and working with the businesses of the communities I represented is businesses don't like us to do things for them, they like us to do things with them. It's the idea that they are allowed to have some sort of investment in creativity. And part of that over the past, 2.5 years has been the interaction with the communities, with Roy and Lake Zurich, with Leslie and Skokie, with Josh and Elk Grove, me in Arlington Heights. And understanding the important thing is that at the end of the day, when a foreign investment firm comes into our community, even though they're investing in Chicago, they are not going to Chicago or the state for their building permits. They're not going to Chicago, or unless they invest in the city of Chicago, of course, for their business license. we are the final step in the process to make sure that that investment actually happens. And so I think we appreciate the fact that you recognized that early on and wanted to and continue to involve us, the representatives from the communities, as part of this process.
Great. So Teresa, you get the final word.
Oh, I did the I think what Select Chicago brings is specifically this collaborative effort, and what Roy had mentioned about scaling the pieces that we all do individually, but when we bring it together, we have much more of an impact on the foreign direct companies. And I think when we've talked to foreign direct companies, they want to know we're all working together. This competition, or who's in, what backyard or whatever, it doesn't sell well. So when we come together as a team and we come together as a collaborative group with this working together, they really like seeing that. That's a very strong check in that box. So just so you're aware, and I think Select Chicago is pretty much the premier organization when it comes to the collar counties. And Chicago itself, World Business Chicago, they get a lot of attention. They get a lot of press. So when we're trying to build out this region, those folks, and I see from DuPage County, in fact, we've got, folks from Kane County, DuPage County. This group is your vehicle for getting attention and getting that collaborative score with the foreign direct investment companies. And I will say one other thing, that I was just at another conference. Site selectors and those who are in that site selection field and the real estate field, they are establishing what's called a collaborative score. And it is a score that they rate their locations on how great they are at working together, because a company doesn't want to come in and have to worry about the political pieces that they have to jump through or the hurdles they have to jump through. So site consultants are actually looking at how well you collaborate. So just make a note of that, because it's a big deal right now.
Great. Well, and thank you, Teresa. Thank you, panel. So we're going to have a 15-minute break.